extend my greetings of the day to everyone and welcome to the first technical session. That is an important one, and the topics being covered are very close to my heart as they relate closely with my academic and research interests, as well as contributions in the field since 1992 from various perspectives. Thus, I'm glad that this morning I'm involved with an exercise that sets the tone for me taking forward the theme of today's virtual conference on living longer and living better. We know in this country and in this century, many individuals live well past 60 years. So it is important for us, all the stakeholders globally, to examine how interventions, data, and innovation can transform aging, the experience of growing old, make our longevity a celebration instead of being a burden. I hope the papers being presented this morning bring focus on positive steps towards better later years. With these opening remarks, I invite you all to listen, absorb, relate, and note down your observations to be discussed during the question and answer duration, which will be at the end of all the presentations, if we have enough time. So request all to be brief, and we will go along with this discussion based on what the time permits. Therefore, essential for speakers to adhere to their time limit, and I hope everybody falls with this direction. So I would now like to invite the first speaker, who is
Professor Gupta.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. So, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just share the screen so that you can see the presentation. Is the presentation visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, so let me get started. Okay, so good morning, everyone. So I would first like to thank Dr. Shashanka and also Professor Mala for conducting this session and the conference. So it's really informative and I'm getting to learn a lot of stuff. So I'm actually working at IIT Guwahati. I'm an assistant professor and I'm going to present some of the research which is going on at my lab, Neuroengineering lab. So it's directly related to mental health and aging. So I hope it's informative to all of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot it. You can email me as well, straight to my email, right? So let's get started. So I'm going to give you the bird's eye statement, right? Bird's eye view of my talk. So I'll introduce the problem statement, right? And then I will sort of get to electrical fields in brain. So I'll be discussing about this blue part of it, the traditional brain-computer interfaces using electroencephalogram, and also the natural environment EEG application. So I think you might be interested to know that we have electrical fields in our brains. So hopefully this will get a lot of questions. And the other part which is going on, some research is going on with regards to magnetic resonance imaging. I don't think I will have time for it. I will just breeze through 2 slides so that you get a view of what exactly our lab is working on. Okay. So images actually convey a lot of stuff. So this is the traditional computer interfaces or the measuring of an electroencephalogram or the brain's functions and structure, which has been inside the lab. But in today's scenario, most of the research, people want to get, let's say, mental workload, or let's say, if you want to have track of epilepsy patients, right? You want a system wherein you want mobility in place. So this is where the world is heading to. And a lot of research is going on into getting applications where mental health can be sort of measured in a daily health scenario. Okay. So apart from that, we're also working on structural MRI, as I said, wherein we have developed an algorithm called Ubinin, which sort of coins the entire MRI image into a single number. And also, we are also looking into subtyping within Parkinson's. So everyone knows Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and depression and stuff. But within Parkinson's, there are subgroups or subtypes. So we are working on that also. So with that introduction, let me just give you the problem statement. So I think most of you would be knowing a lot of stuff over here. So I'll just quickly breeze through it. Mental disorders have different representations. They are characterized by a combination of abnormal thoughts, perceptions, emotions, and relationships with others, right? So you would have heard about the host of terms like depression, dementia, schizophrenia. All have subtle differences with each other. So depression, I think, is pretty well known. For someone being persistently sad and not unmotivated and having suicidal thoughts, right? So they are actually characterized as depression. Schizophrenia are people who hear voices and see things which are not seen by others. So they also have negative empathy. And Parkinson's disease is a motor dysfunction disease. And apart from that, the Alzheimer's and autism are also closely related to the spectrum of diseases. So they are usually characterized as neurodevelopment disorders. Okay? So, and as you know, Alzheimer's and sort of dementia and others neurological disorders occur predominantly in aging, right? Apart from this traditional World Health Organization classified stuff, we have something new popping up, which we need to be very careful. Okay. So this is a digital era. So everyone's sort of having a tab, or everyone's having a laptop or a mobile phone, right? So you can see the host of digital gadgets which are popping up, right? So the good aspects is that it's giving accessibility to resources with all of us. It's also helping in giving support to online communities. But the negative impact is it's leading to addiction. Okay, you take a step back and think. If I say like in 100 people, there are at least now 75 people who cannot stay or live without a mobile phone, right? So first thing anyone looks up is, do I have a mobile phone or do I have a tab, right? So that is kind of leading to addiction of smartphone devices. And also there's this, the younger generation is social media addiction. So the host of apps out there, right? So you know that the younger generations are sort of hooked on to the smartphone and to their apps, which is kind of scary in a way, because you're kind of obsessed, getting obsessed to these digital gadgets. So the need of our is have a balanced liking. So you're liking something is okay, but you need to be balanced and not get obsessed with it. Okay. So with these two scenarios, problem statement, it becomes imperative for us to have new methods or technologies which can measure the, let's say, mental workload, or let's say monitor a depressive patient, right? Or let's say monitor a patient who's having epilepsy. So these are some of the challenges which my lab is working at IIT Guwahati. So, as I said, I'm going to discuss about the electrical fields in the brain, or the electroencephalogram. Let me just quickly run starting from single neuron, multiple neurons, and then I'll give you the the physiological basis of electroencephalogram. So I think most of this stuff might be already known to people. So neurons, as you know, is a specialized type of cell for information transfer. It's responsible for action potential. So I think this is standard biology, which one of us knows. So neuron has dendrites, and the powerhouse of the neuron is the cell body, or the soma, and then there is the nucleus, right? So the axon is actually the transmitting signals from one from one neuron to another. And then action potential in a single neuron. So actually, this is a single neuron over here. So an action potential is actually fired when there are a number of impulses which are acting at the same time. And so this is for time and space. So then that's why it's called temporal-spatial summation. So whenever there are a lot of impulses which are sort of aggregating over the dendrites, the neuron fires, and it actually fires an action potential. So this action potential is actually communicated to the axons, to the axon terminals, the next neuron. Okay. This is the concept of neurotransmitters, that is between one neuron and another neuron. So this is the postsynaptic neuron, and this is the presynaptic neuron, and this is the postsynaptic neuron. and you have the neurotransmitters, which are sort of enabling the transfer of information from one neuron 1 to neuron 2. Okay, so these can this can be excitatory or inhibitory based upon the type of whether it's glutamate or whether GABA is present in your neurotransmitters. Okay, so this is actually called as the synapse, which we would have probably learned as well. Now let me get to a different level. So I started off with a single neuron, and then I spoke about action potential within one single neuron, and then communication between neurons. So when you take that to the brain, so you have you have your scalp over here. This is the skull, and this is the gray matter of the brain. Okay, so let me show you this figure. So this is the gray matter which is present over here. And these are your electrical fields. So this is a section of cerebral cortex showing the micro sources which contribute the synaptic and the action potentials. Okay, so have these sources, neuronal sources in your gray matter of the brain, which are actually contributing sort of synaptic and electrical fields, which are sort of recorded across the electrode which is placed on the scalp of the person. Okay, so this is here the electrode. You can see one single electrode. So this electrode will capture the synaptic activity of, let's say, some tens and thousands of neurons which are present in this region. Okay, so it is measuring the activity of all the electrical activity of all these neurons, and the ensemble is sort of recorded over here. And you can see that you can see that signal, 4-second signal corresponding to the neurons which are firing at this location. Okay. So from the activity recorded over here, what we decipher? So we recorded a single channel of electroencephalogram. That is the activity due to a bunch of neurons. From that, we can actually do some analysis, and we can find whether the brain, someone is sleeping, is in deep sleep, or whether someone is in a relaxed full state. If you have the frequency ranges, if it's in the alpha range, 8 to 13, then we can say that Mr. X or Miss Y is actually in a relaxed state. Okay, when it's in the delta state, that is the frequency being 0.1 to 3 hertz, we can say that Mr. X, Miss Y is actually in a deep meditation or sort of into a deep sleep state. From the signal recorded from the brain, we can decipher a lot of things. So even we can find out the frequency ranges will be in 14 to 29 when they're doing computing and mental activities, computing and mental load activities are being done by the person. Okay, so these are some of the uses of recording the electroencephalogram, which I just discussed with you. So, I mean, I think everyone knows this organ. This is the powerhouse of our entire body, right? You can see that various regions of the brain are actually responsible for various functions. So you can say that the prefrontal cortex, this region is responsible for working memory, and it's also responsible for solving complex problems. Whereas you have the primary visual cortex, which is responsible for vision. And then you have the primary auditory cortex, which is sort of responsible for hearing. Similarly, you have other areas, which shows that different areas of the brain are responsible for different functions which we perform. Okay, so that's the reason why we can listen to music and also simultaneously walk, right? So our motor and our auditory are happening parallelly. So that's the reason that parallel processing of the brain is clearly brought out over here. So this I'm going to show this figure a few times so that it hits your brain and we know where we are going, right? So this is the problem statements which I discussed, and this is the blue part which we are going to discuss in detail. I explained to you the electrical fields in the brain, right? And then now I'm going to explain to you what exactly a brain-computer interface, or how to make use of the signals which we have recorded just far, right? So let's get started on this.
Dr. Gupta, may I also request you to start winding up? Your time is almost up.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So this is sort of a brain-computer interface wherein the person is actually doing a task. We are measuring the electroencephalogram, which I just explained to you, right? And that is getting recorded, and that is sort of being stored into a computer. Okay, so this enables inactivity to control external devices. Okay, so it compares hardware and cognitive paradigm. So this is a paradigm which the person has to do. And these are some, this is how, so he's actually required to, let's say he's required to count the number of O's which are being flashed. Okay? So X and O's are flashed, but his task is to count the number of. So whenever an O is flashed, since he's focused on the task, there's going to be a P300 potential which is evoked, which is going to be recorded by the system, right? And that sort of is being picked up. And we can find, using intelligent signal processing techniques, we can say that Mr. X or Miss Y is actually focusing on the letter. Okay. So that enables us to actually get into applications like cognitive biomarkers, right? So we can see over here, the subject is able to spell the letter R. So there's going to be a flashes, rows and columns in this video. And whenever a column or a row containing the R is flashed, the subject counts 1, 2, 3 mentally in his mind. So technically, he's focusing on the task. And whenever the row or column is flashed, there is a potential which is evoked in your brain, which can be detected using signal processing and machine learning techniques. Okay. So this actually means that we are able to spell the letter with, there's no need to write or type. So we are spelling the letters just using the brain signals. Okay. This is the spelling which will happen soon. So you can see an R will come up flashed, saying that it's actually spelled. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a spell. So it's automatically detected. The system has automatically detected the stuff. And just the last 30 seconds. So this is some research which is going on at the moment. So we are actually trying to get the brain signals recorded on the move using, we have integrated camera and brain signal recording so that we know what exactly is the task people are doing. So this will actually be useful for mental workload, epilepsy, and various host spectrum of psychiatric disorders. So this is the system which we have. So this is inside the lab, wherein recording the camera data and the signals onto a smartphone, right? And then you'll see this is task 1, mobile EEG cap. And then we would get out of the lab in a natural environment scenario, wherein we can monitor both healthy and people with mental disorders. So this is eyes open. Just last 20 seconds, he will get out of the lab and he will be walking around. So that's in the natural environment. So this is the natural environment. So you can even cycle, or you can walk through a park, right? Or listen to song and get your brain signals recorded. Yeah, that's it. I think I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity. So if you have any questions, I'm glad to take. Thanks again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Gupta.